Once you're done, go ahead and take your pins out. You noticed all my pins were facing towards the center, so while I was sewing it would not poke me. And then you're going to flip it out by putting your thumbs inside and using your fingers to push it through. And you will notice that when you flip it over, sometimes it kind of looks like a house shape. And you need to take your fingers, and I'm just going to rub my fingers up across the seam. This is the seam that you created, and I'm going to try and push my corners out as much as I possibly can. I just keep going, and if I wanted it to be a more hidden stitch, I probably would have used green thread, but for my demonstration I wanted you to see what I was doing as I push these corners out. You can kind of see the thread showing through the other side. And that's what you want. To be able to put those corners out, you need to have the seam coming all the way around. Okay, so now that I've pushed that out, I've pushed the corners, especially these trick people. You really have to push those out. Then I have this ugly flap. I'm going to want to fold that down so that this flap now is as flat as any of these other areas. Okay, so now that I have this flap down and it's even on all sides, I'm going to take my pin and I'm going to go inside, and you can see the red stitches all along the edges there. I don't want to pull my stitches out, but what I want to do is I want to grab my fabric and I just want to pull up. And that's what I'm doing in these corners. I'm not pulling the stitches, so I don't want to break my thread, but I do want those 90-degree corners. And so that's why I'm digging my pin point in there to try and pull all those corners out where I see all the stitches right on the edge. And then I know I'll have those nice 90-degree corners. I've got one more to go. Okay. See, it has 90-degree corners. It looks much better now. Then where my flap is, I make sure it's flat exactly where I want it, and then I'm going to pin it down, and then I'll take it to the iron and I will iron it. Whenever you want to test if your iron is ready or not, you never want to touch that, because whatever on this metal plate you touch will burn you. Even with you're doing this, if that metal plate touches your finger, it will burn you. If you want to know if it's hot, just rub it down a little bit, feel it, and you can feel the heat. I have pinned this in place. I don't want to go over my plastic round piece, because if I do, it will melt it. So I am going to press it 1 alligator, 2 alligator, 3 alligator, 4 alligator, 5 alligator, and then I can press this side, and I can press the metal pen because it's heat resistant. 1 alligator, 2 alligator, 3 alligator, 4 alligator, 5 alligator, and then I can take my pin out and press it here. 1 alligator, 2 alligator, 3 alligator, 4 alligator, 5 alligator, and I want to make sure that it has a really strong fold line, so you should be able to see that fold line there, because that's going to help me with my hidden stitch. Okay, before you clean up, even if you don't need to use these pins immediately, don't turn them in till the last day of sewing. You're just going to put them inside one of your bean bags and store it in here like this. It's better to do it that way than to just throw your pins in where it's more easy for them to get lost. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and sew on a button, and you have to kind of decide where you want to put your button, but you don't want to put it over where your opening is, because that will cause you problems later. So go ahead, stick your needle inside wherever you want that to go. I'm going to aim a little bit for the center. Test your knot. It works. It's not coming out. You have a flat side of your button that you want to touch the fabric, and then you have the kind of three-dimensional fashionable side. I'm going to put it in, Get it out of my way, go close to where this is, and stick that in. Then I'm working through my opening yet again, and I'm going to pull it tight. And then I'm going to take my button, I'm going to push it through my opening because this is where I'm working. Make sure everything is tight. And then I'm just going to go ahead and stitch 8 times. Okay, stop. So after you get 8 stitches, then you push your button through the opening. So I'm working through my opening here. And then you go ahead and tie a knot like you normally did before. Make sure you have 3 knots there. You don't want your button coming out. And after you get your 3 knots, carefully cut your thread without cutting any fabric. Stop. Here's someone who is not very successful with the hidden stitch. They went ahead and they stitched it all the way across, but as you can see, this here has lots and lots of holes in it, and the beans pop out. I mean, a whole bunch of beans can pop out at once, and it's not a very good job. Okay, so I have a knot on the end of my thread, and I don't want to start my work here because if I pull that through, my ugly knot is going to show. So I don't want it to show. We're going to start the hidden stitch here. You want to go underneath this flap as close as you can to where you stopped your stitching earlier. Test your knot. If your knot doesn't come out, then you're ready to move on. So I'm working on the inside flap right here. I'm only sewing up on this side, and you'll notice that the stitches are all along the fold. So while I'm stitching right on the fold or just right underneath it. If you stitch any lower on the flap, then your grade will drop because you will have an ugly bump. So do a few stitches and then go ahead and pull it through, and you'll notice those stitches are hard to see. I'm going to do a few more and let you see what it looks like. But you take the inner flap right, and don't go through both layers, just go through the one layer in the center. You need to make small stitches. If you don't make small stitches here, then you will also have an ugly bump and your beans might come out. And I'm going to open this up and let you kind of take a look at what I've done here. I've just kind of zigzagged back and forth, and that's the stitching I'm doing, and when I pull it, it closes your bean bag, and that's how you do your hidden stitch. So you're just going to go ahead and stitch zigzagging back and forth all the way till you get to the end where you had stopped stitching here. Tie your knot, cut it off, careful not to cut any fabric, and then you're going to take your knot and just tuck it inside so it cannot be seen. Okay, I'm going to show you some sample of some students' work, and when you do your hidden stitch, you want to sew right along the fold line. And you want to sew on the fold line because right along here, that's where your other stitches are. And you want to sew, when you do your hidden stitch, you want to sew right up on the fold. And you can see where this student has their stitches, but they didn't sew on the fold. They sewed a little bit further down in the flap, and so it's going to have this ugly looking bump that kind of sticks up, and it's going to have a curvature instead of being nice and flat like this. And she's able to iron it so it looks okay, but it should not look like it has a dip in it. And if you see, you can tell it has that dip. Other people that do their sewing, they don't keep the folds down. You can see the raw edges here sticking up, and they just kind of stitched it through. And what they really wanted to have done is pinched it right here and sewed right up along the fold line. And this one here still looks a little messy as well. Okay, if you look along the seam line all the way around this bean bag, it's really hard to tell where the hidden stitch is. I can tell it's right over here, but this student did an excellent job with the hidden stitch. Even here, it's hard to tell where the hidden stitch is. It looks even all the way around. I can tell she did a little bit of work here, but that is A quality work. Thank you to all my wonderful Quest students that helped me create this instructional video.